Hey everyone, I'm Cary Smith and I'm sitting here with Cheri Turner.
Hi, everyone.
And Cheri and I are both with Client First Capital. And Cheri, we have a great topic today.
Thanks,
And
Jerry.
although I think I know a fair amount about this topic, you know a lot. And so this is a perfect topic for you and I to discuss, with you being the smart one of the two of us. And so today's topic is smart wealth transfer, leaving a legacy. And I think this topic is very timely because this is something that more and more people are starting to have to think about. And for a lot of people, they just don't know all the ins and outs and where to start and what this process looks like. And they don't want to make any mistakes, and they want to make sure that there's good, solid planning behind this. And so why don't you kick us off with some of the just some of the steps and things to think about
Yeah,
as we're thinking about leaving a legacy.
absolutely. So, what I'd like to do is start with a little bit of, just understanding kind of the basics of estate planning and why does this even matter, right? So, through estate planning, that is how that we ensure that our assets are distributed according to where we want them to go, according to our wishes. And it also helps to avoid any family conflicts. You being able to state your wishes and where and how you want things distributed can help to prevent arguments amongst any heirs, as well as proper estate planning helps you to avoid probate, which help keeps the terms of your assets private. And it also helps to prevent your wealth or preserve your wealth for future generations, which we all want to be able to pass that on. There's also the question of what's a will versus a trust, right? A will essentially directs your asset distribution after death, but it still ends up going through probate, and the terms are still open to the public. However, with the trust, you're able to determine exactly how you want your assets to pass. They're able to pass directly to your beneficiaries without going through probate. And in addition, all of the terms stay private. So nobody ever has any access to what your choices were. Um, there are different kinds of trusts that you can use. There's revocable, irrevocable, even charitable trusts that can be used. Um, there's also one thing before you start estate planning, you want to be sure to avoid some of the common mistakes. One is once you make a will or a trust, you want to be sure that you come back to it regularly and you're updating it, making sure that it's still accurate. There's no beneficiaries gained or lost, and that everything is still according to how you want it to pass. Additionally, you also want to consider state-specific laws. So not only looking at what the federal laws are, but also considering what the laws in your state might be. So being sure to consider those before going through and setting up your plan.
Okay, so are you trying to tell me that if that possibly heirs might disagree and not get along and argue? And so, I tell you that alone is a really good reason, because you might want to say there's a peaceful transfer of your assets in the sense that everything was defined up front and
Right.
there's no room for argument or disagreement, right?
Mhm,
And
mhm.
so that may be one of the biggest benefits, because the legacy people leave behind isn't going to want to be one of confusion
Right.
and disagreement, right? And so
Mhm.
that's actually a pretty good argument for starting
Right.
this process.
Absolutely. In fact, many people actually put the terms in there that if somebody challenges the trust itself, then they're essentially out. So that prevents the challenging even more.
Yes.
Right. So if we look at smart strategies for tax efficient transfer, one of the things that you want to be sure that you watch is keeping an eye on that federal estate tax exemption limit.
Mhm.
Now, most people in life don't hit that limit. Currently, for 2025, that limit is at 13.99 million per person. However, for those individuals who are looking at their estate landing at or above that level, you want to ensure that you have proper planning. Additionally, as we referenced earlier, you want to consider the state level for that tax exemption because it could be different than the federal. Some states are actually lower. And if you are also looking at yourself perhaps exceeding that and being subject to estate taxes, that's when considering one of those irrevocable trusts would be beneficial. Because what that does is it takes some of those assets, you're essentially promising those to someone else, and that removes them from your estate and prevents them from being taxable to your estate after death. A second way that you can address things tax-wise is by using the annual gift tax exemption. Many of you are probably familiar with that. For 2025, the annual gift tax exemption is $18,000 per recipient per year. So $18,000 that you can give to someone else per year. If you and your spouse are gifting, that actually adds up to $36,000 you can give per individual. So when you're trying to look for strategies to reduce the size of your estate, then this is one of the methods that can be used. This can be done through gifting to family, as well as one really beneficial way is to fund a 529 for, say, grandchildren, or you can pay tuition or medical bills directly. And so those prevents them from being taxable gifts to them as well.
Yeah. Well, while you're living or when you pass, either way, you do not want to pay more taxes than you have to pay. And everyone's looking for tax efficiencies. And so these tax strategies, I think, are important.
Mm-hmm.
And something that I think a lot of people just don't give enough thought
Right.
to making sure that they're being tax efficient with strategies.
Mm-hmm. And then the other thing that individuals can do is converting IRAs over to Roths and ensuring that those funds can be that it eliminates future tax burdens for the heirs as well.
Yes.
So another thing that individuals want to do in strategically putting together their estate plan is choosing and updating your beneficiaries wisely. So you can avoid probate again by using what we call TOD or POD accounts. These are transfer on death or payable on death. So what that means is if you have certain types of bank accounts, upon your death, they're going to transfer immediately directly to that person without having to go through the will, the trust, the probate, any of that. So it's what we call by order of law, goes directly to them. So you can do that, and you can do that with IRAs, brokerage accounts, and all types of accounts as well. So utilizing those helps those assets to pass directly to them. Additionally, you want to ensure that the beneficiaries are up to date. You want to come back to those and review them periodically. Sometimes individuals might pass away, or you might have a new birth in the family. You might have new grandchildren. You want to be sure to incorporate those as well. The other thing is that you want to consider when establishing beneficiaries, there's two different ways that you can differentiate that. And one is called per stirpes, which actually means that the wealth passes down to the next generation. So if for example, I am leaving my account to my 3 children, and I have a daughter and 2 sons. If my daughter should pass away first, per stirpe says that I want my assets to go to her husband and children, or to her husband. And there's also per capita. Per capita means if I give it to the 3 individuals, but one has passed away, then it's just divided amongst the surviving 2. So you have the choice of determining how you want to differentiate those.
Yeah, very good. These decisions, it's really good to work with someone on an estate plan to kind of help you understand the norms and what most people do, but also understanding what you want and what you want to happen, and walk a person through all of these things. Because even the one that you just mentioned for the beneficiary designations, a lot of that is not stuff that everyone knows.
Right.
And just to have someone walk them through it and help them make the right decisions ensures that, they'll have a smooth transfer if when needed.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And then lastly is if you have a desire, if you are charitably inclined, then it's planning for your charitable giving and legacy, and looking at ways that you can give to causes that are close to your heart. One of the ways you can do that are through the trust that we discussed earlier, something called the Charitable Remainder Trust or Charitable Lead Trust, which is where you're gifting a portion of that asset to a charity. And essentially, again, that removes the value of that gift from your estate. So that helps to both gift to that charity and removes those taxes from your estate. Additionally, you can give non-money gifts. You can gift stocks, art, and other type things, as well as establishing donor advised funds. And then lastly, I would encourage people to work with a professional, work with your financial advisor, as well as an estate planning attorney to ensure that both your wishes are very clear, that you're making good decisions around, your beneficiaries, and things like if you're establishing executors and trustees for your trusts and your wills. You want to make sure that you're selecting proper individuals for those roles.
Yeah, Cheri, you hit on a lot of really good topics today, and but I think you're right. Most financial planners, they really want to see their clients do this work, right? They want to make sure that when the time comes to transfer wealth or transfer these assets, that process is as smooth as possible.
Absolutely.
And most financial planners aren't just, they don't just consider the client their client, they consider the family to be their client,
Yes.
right? And I know that's the way that we look at it at Client First Capital. And so, yeah, I appreciate your expertise on this topic today, Cheri. Um, and if you like this video, found value, give us a like. As also, if you want to get access to other videos like this or sign up for our newsletter, you can do so at clientfirstcap.com. And so please check us out there. But these are topics that we also help our clients with. And although it's common for people initially to want investment strategies and tax strategies and retirement plans, once we talk about the importance of estate planning, typically people get it. And that's a very common service that we provide for our clients as well. Hey, Cheri, good job. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Uh-huh.